All right, it looks like everybody has had a chance to get logged in here. So we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, as the case may be, depending on where you're joining us from. My name's Alan, and my colleague Hinarosa and I are here today to chat with you a little bit about Gatsby, the fastest front end for the headless web. So before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. If you have questions that come up during the webinar, please add them to the Q&A panel here, and we'll either try to answer them in the webinar or we'll follow up with a written response. The second thing to be aware of is this webinar is being recorded. Everybody's going to receive a follow-up message probably in a few days once the recording has been processed and the captions have been added and things like that. So be on the lookout for that recording. And if you miss something while we're going through the walkthroughs or anything like that, rest assured you'll have access to a recording after the webinar. So let's dive in and kind of talk about what we're going to cover today in our webinar. So we're going to start with a little bit of foundational info about some core Gatsby concepts and features. And these are things that make Gatsby the best choice for building a performant, content-driven website with your team. And then after that, we're going to switch gears a little bit and dive into Gatsby Cloud. We're going to create an account, and we're going to explore how Gatsby Cloud is the best platform for building and hosting and scaling your Gatsby site. And we're also going to be demonstrating some pretty cool features for you along the way. So before we get started, let's have a question here to kick us off. Why have thousands of websites chosen Gatsby, right? Why do companies, whether they're small or large, these companies across various industries and verticals, whether they're building sites for themselves or for their clients, why do these people choose Gatsby? And if we had to distill it down to one core principle, I would say it's this. It's because Gatsby makes the hard parts of building websites just simpler, right? There are so many things that developers and content editors have to figure out and decide on and find solutions for and collaborate on while they're building sites. And Gatsby helps you focus on the work that you and your team are most excited about when you're building those sites by taking care of those hard and repetitive parts for you. So let's break this apart just a little bit to kind of talk about some of the benefits that you get with Gatsby, but also more broadly with the Jamstack. So let's talk about performance first, right? Static sites are naturally performant on their own for various reasons, but Gatsby takes that further, right? With things like image optimization that's built in, code splitting, lazy loading. All of these things help your site's core web vitals, which helps with search engine optimization. All of these things, they help get your content to your customers and your audience more efficiently and faster. Right, next, let's talk about scalability. You don't have to worry as much about things like load balancing or database replication with a Jamstack site, but also with a Gatsby site. These are things that you don't have to worry about that you might have to worry about if you're coming from a monolithic background. Say, if you're using like a WordPress instance, you're probably familiar with some of these pain points. Now, if you're using Gatsby Cloud, your static files, they get deployed globally to a CDN where folks can access those files from the edge network, right? Very close to wherever their browser is. They're getting that content very fast. Let's talk about security, right? Static sites just have a much smaller surface area for would-be attackers. And one of the big reasons for this is because the parts of your site that your users are interacting with, those parts are decoupled from its administrative interfaces and data sources. And that just makes it much more difficult to breach. Now we talk about data sources here with regard to security, but in general, data sourcing is part of what makes Gatsby, in my opinion, just, I can never think of a better word besides magical, right? There's a rich ecosystem of sourcing plugins that abstract the details and nuances of API requests for you, and they'll fetch data for you to use in your site's pages and templates without you having to build all of that logic yourself. So that's how Gatsby improves your website, but it's not just the website that improves, it's the process of building it that Gatsby really helps. right? So let's talk about how Gatsby helps that collaborative process. It makes it simple for developers and marketers, or you might think of these as the people who manage the content on the website. It makes it easy for them to work together to build incredible websites. So now, Generosa, I know that you do a lot of work, on the dev side, and I do, I kind of live in Contentful and WordPress and stuff because I'm on our marketing team. Can you tell me a little bit about, how it works for you when we use Gatsby to collaborate?
Yeah, absolutely. What I really like with Gatsby, and I'm going to show it too in a demo later, is that, as developers, I can easily see the work I'm doing. If I'm working on a feature branch or a fixed branch, I can actually preview that against production. And that way, it's easily to compare and collaborate with others. And also what I like too is from your perspective, you have the power to do what you need. You don't really need to write a single item code or ask me to do anything. So I really like that Gatsby Cloud has made it very efficient for both developers and marketers and content creators to work together. Yeah.
Sorry, I was muted. And I appreciate that from my side as well. I know that in previous jobs, I've had situations where as a marketer, I want to get a very simple change out to the website and having to make a case for that against other engineering priorities. Like that becomes a real tricky situation, right? And so, if you wait up to a week to get a small copy change implemented or something like that, Gatsby streamlines that because it is managing that collaborative process. So it's a big help in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see here. So we've talked a little bit about the collaborative process. This is kind of switching gears to talk about what Gatsby really does under the hood, right? So it's Gatsby's known for being a static site generation tool, and it is that, and it does that really, really well. But what a lot of people may not realize is that Gatsby does more than just static site generation, right? We have kind of that traditional server-side rendering that you might see where all of the content is rendered during a request on demand. But then we also have this hybrid method of rendering called deferred static rendering or deferred static generation, where you can tell Gatsby to pre-build certain pages that are maybe high priority, and then all the other pages, maybe if you have, say, like older content that's not super high priority, you can defer all that content and it gets built on demand as people request it. It's built on that first request and then it's cached just like the rest of your statically generated pages. And I know this is a lot of me kind of talking, but I think it really helps to see this in action. And I think Generosa, you have a few scenarios. Is that right? Yeah.
Sure. Let me actually share my screen so that
totally.
We can see what's going on. Can you see a website called Simply Shapes on the screen?
Yep.
All right, cool. So I want to just quickly show the two new generation methods. So I'll show what deferred static generation looks like first. So here I have a blog section. And the way I set this up is that all blogs that are older than June 25 are deferred. And so what does that do? It helps the build process. So when Gatsby does a build, it doesn't have to build content that's older than June 25, because my assumption is customers don't really look at that. So we'll take a look at this one. This was posted in February 14th. So as I click on it, because it hasn't been pre-built yet, you could see that, or it actually feels like it's taking some time to show up. So that is what deferred static generation will do. But let's actually take a look at the code behind that. And then, actually, there it is right now. It just rendered. But as Alan said, it gets cached. So if I click on it again, it shows up very quickly. Again, the assumption is people really won't look at that. So why add pages to your build time? But in terms of how that looks from a code perspective, basically what we added in Gatsby 4 is this function called config. And this is where you set up whatever you'd like deferred. So in this case, I set up a GraphQL query where it filters my query for content that is June 25. also I'm looking for content that's dated June 25 and earlier, and then putting that all together in this variable called old posts. And then in my return statement, I deferred it. So anything that has in the old post variable that has the parameters that I set, which in this case is the date, that gets deferred. So that's how you actually do it in code. The other method is server-side rendering, which is your just traditional rendering where you make a request through an API or, and then it fetches it through the server. So in this site, I have this nav item called new. And what this is, it fetches new recipes from a recipe API. So every time I click on new, it just will generate a different, it's just calling a new recipe. So, and the way that exhibits itself in code, basically, I'm here on the page where that page is built. And basically in Gatsby 4, we added this get server data function. And basically it does what it says. It's just calling a third-party API and then just returning the response. So again, this is added for you. So that's an example of the two rendering methods. So back to you, Alan. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thanks a bunch. And I love this too, because, I think about if you're building a website, as a developer, you have different, you need to get content to people in different ways. And I love that Gatsby gives you the option to specify what makes the most sense for each piece of content. You don't have to buy into an entire kind of like ecosystem of rendering strategies, right?
Right. That's true.
Yep. Let's see here. Looks like a question has come in about Shopify Plus. I think we may try to address that in our Q&A panel.
I'm going to just look at it while you're presenting. I'll research that question.
Oh, that sounds great. Thanks.
Yeah.
This will be great. So this is perfect timing. So let's chat about Gatsby Cloud. Let's switch gears just a little bit. We believe this is the best, best platform for delivering the best Gatsby experiences, and we're going to show you why that is here. So if you haven't already, signing up for an account on Gatsby Cloud.
Yeah, Alan, I think you need to share your screen again.
Oh no.
Again. Yeah, no problem. That's okay.
Thanks, Generosa.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I think. There we
go. Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Okay. Thanks.
That's okay.
So yeah, if you haven't already, signing up for a Gatsby Cloud account is super easy, right? You can go to gatsbyjs.com and there is a little button up in the corner, or you can go to gatsbyjs.com/dashboard/sign-up. What I will do right now is I'm going to actually show you how easy this is. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and let me find my other window here. Just a quick minute, y'all. All right. So let me switch windows. All right, Generosa, can you see my Gatsby JS window here?
Not yet.
Oh, no.
I see the slides for now.
Let's try this. Is that it?
No.
Oh, well, let me
still seeing your side. Maybe you just sign up, or you're using a different browser.
Oh, sorry. There we are. Yeah. How about now? Is that better?
Yes, I see it now. Perfect.
All right. I appreciate y'all's patience. So here we are. If you're on gatsbyjs.com, up here in the corner, we'll just sign up for a free account. What'll happen is you walk through this process. You can authorize through a number of different providers, whether it's GitHub, or if you use GitLab or Bitbucket, you can use those as well. I'm going to continue with my Google account here. I'm signed in as alan.smith@gatsbyjs.com. All you do is you click on your account here. Sometimes there'll be extra screens asking you to authorize the Gatsby Cloud, so you can proceed with those as well. And here we are with our free account on Gatsby Cloud. Now, it's super easy to go ahead and set up your first site, and I'm going to walk through that for y'all right now. You can see I have a starter blog on here already. If you want to add a new site, you can go up here to the corner and click the add a site button. When you go to add a new site to your workspace, you have a few different options for how you can do that. If you want to import a site from a Git repository that you've authorized for your account, you can do that. So if I wanted to pull from a GitHub repository, I could set that up here. And I think later on in our webinar, Hinerosa does that. What I'm going to do, just to keep things super simple for right now, I'm going to use one of these Gatsby starters, because Gatsby starters make it super easy to get a site up and running very quick. So you can sort of see how Gatsby works. So I'm just going to use a Gatsby starter blog. This is a markdown based Gatsby site. So I'll click on that starter. And now it's going to ask us where we want to store the code for that site that we're creating. And let's see here. I'll just store this in, let's see here. I think I'll have to give it a new name because I already have a Gatsby starter blog. I'll just store this on GitHub for the time being.
Okay.
This is already pre-authorized in my GitHub account. So right now, Gatsby Cloud is talking to GitHub and they're arranging all the details, and Gatsby Cloud is pushing that repository up to GitHub. And now you can see down here, the first build of my project is up and running, and Gatsby Cloud set up this repository for me on my behalf. Yeah. I can go over to this repository. Oh, let's see if this will work. All right. Are you able to see my GitHub window, Hinerosa?
I see the confirm. Yeah, I see yep, I see it right now.
And so now I'm over here on GitHub. This is just a random place that I have selected for today, but Gatsby Cloud created all of this for me using that start. Yeah. And so if you can see all of the things that it set up, I'll go into my Gatsby config right now. And what Gatsby has done is it has pre-configured a lot of these plugins. So there's a plugin that can read files on your file system and translate that into data that you can populate in your site templates. There's one that can transform Markdown for you. We have image processing as well. There's all sorts of plugins, and we'll talk about those in just a little bit. But Gatsby Cloud has set all of this up for me in this starter template. Just with that one simple click, I now have a repository on GitHub. And as we're talking through this, Gatsby Cloud is actually spinning up the very first build of my site. And if we go back over to Gatsby Cloud, I'm going to check on the build status just real quick. It usually takes a little bit of time this first time through, just because it has to download all the dependencies and things like that.
But subsequent builds typically are seconds because they just do the incremental changes. But yeah, you're talking about the plugins, and I'm curious, like how. I think that's one of the benefits of Gatsby. We have a very, very healthy plugin ecosystem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, are there others that you've seen, like
there are?
Use, or, yeah. Cool.
So I have a slide for this, but what I'm going to do is actually, you can still see my.
Yeah, I can see your. Yep.
I'm going to come over here and just show you all the plugin directory.
Yeah.
I think our website. There's over 3,000.
Yeah,
and
nice.
It's for anything that you can imagine, whether it's sourcing content from a particular CMS or transforming that content that you've sourced into some other format. Anything and everything that you would use to interact with a third-party API is built into these plugins, and it abstracts that process for you, so that you only have to learn one query language, and you just get all of those into your GraphQL query and use that data to populate your templates. And it makes it so simple because you're not trying to communicate with, 100 different services. But anything you can think of, it's great. Like what was one the other day? I was looking up, there's a plugin for, let's see here, I believe it's search. There's one that lets you look at stats about node modules, like anything. It's just random stuff. If you wanted to pull that data from the NPM API, there's a plugin that will do that for you.
There's a plugin for that.
Yeah. Oh, it's wild. There's a plugin for everything. So let's see here. that is sort of the richness of our plugin ecosystem. And again, I think that's part of what makes Gatsby so magical, really.
Yeah, yeah.
And the one other thing that I'll
Cool.
show here. Oh, go ahead, Hanarosa.
No, I was just saying, cool. It's amazing.
Oh yeah. And once your site is built, I think what Gatsby Cloud, where it really shines is distributing that website globally. And for that, I am going to switch back to my slides
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, in fact, it was a question in the chat whether we have a CDN. So yeah,
Oh, that's a perfect segue.
Yeah, you're going to talk about it just now. Yeah.
Yeah, so we do. So we use Fastly for our CDN. So when you build your site on Gatsby Cloud and you host with us, we deploy your site using Fastly globally, right? So it's on an edge network. I want to say up to 57 points of presence, especially if you're on one of our enterprise plans. I believe 57. I can never remember this number. I need to make a note to remember our pops, but it's a lot. And so your site is delivered, it's fast, it's put in a place where people viewing your website can get to that content very, very fast. So that is our slide deck in a nutshell here. And I'm going to pass it over to Hanarosa now to kind of chat through this collaborative process, kind of hooking things up between other systems.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Alan. That was awesome. Nice to see how easy it is to get up and running. So as Alan shared with you, he showed how you can get a Gatsby Cloud account, add a site. I'm going to go through now this two scenarios. One is a developer scenario, like once you have a site, how can you collaborate? And then the other workflow is for the content creator. Now that you have a site and you're working in a CMS like Contentful, like how does that workflow work for you? So this is my site. You see Gatsby sales, right, Ellen? Just checking. Okay, cool.
That's right.
Yeah, so here I have, this is called a workspace, and here I have different sites. You can look at a workspace as sort of your home account, and you can look at sites as maybe different environments. You might have a production, QA, dev, or if you're an agency working with different customers, this might be the name of your customer, and then different environments. So in this actual site, it's a site built on Contentful. One of the things I wanted to share here is that this site was actually built using a GitHub repo. What Alan shared earlier was building a site using a starter. This one actually points to a repo and then the branch of the repo. And you notice that there are environment variables here. So with Gatsby, we have this concept of like quick connect. So we work with a number of CMSs where you can quickly connect it. Somebody asked a question about Shopify, whether you needed Shopify Plus. And the answer is no. I think Shopify Plus might be a higher level account. You don't need a Shopify Plus account. You can just use regular Shopify. But I use the Quick Connect feature to add Contentful. And basically what that does is it adds all in the environment variables for build and deploy. The other thing I wanted to share is that we also we expose the webhooks. So if you wanted to maybe trigger builds programmatically, maybe you have a CMS that's your own, you can use this build webhook to generate builds and previews. And then you can also send notifications. So I have a notification with Slack integrated here so that I can, step out and just get notified if the build succeeded or failed. Last but not least, your builds, which are like your preview builds, you can have access control, meaning you can add a password there. Because I have some customers wherein they are building new features in the page and they don't want it exposed publicly. So you could add a password there. So that's just some things I wanted to point out. So now let's take a look at a developer workflow. So here we look at our production site. if you notice down here, I have a number of pull requests. So I have a team of developers working together. We are working on a number of features here. So all of these pull requests are integrated directly from the GitHub repo. So here's the GitHub repo, and here are the various pull requests. So what's nice in Gatsby Cloud is we can preview all of these pull requests, right here directly from the site and compare it maybe to production. So let's just say, okay, the pull request that I opened looks good. So now everything looks good. Let's just merge it and confirm the merge. And all of this will just update in Gatsby Cloud. So basically, that's the developer workflow that is commonly seen where you saw the merge is happening right now. Another key capability is reverting, going back to a previous build. Let's say this merge, for some reason, you say, hey, that last merge we did, we don't want it. We had a change in our plans. We can easily go back to a previous build by just clicking publish from a previous build. So that's a quick view on what it's like to be a developer. So the merge was done, 38 seconds, and deployed in less than a second. Let's switch gears and now look at the content creator workflow. So in that workflow, that person is working directly off the CMS, which in this case is Contentful. So as we see in this page, somebody published this content that wasn't ready. So as the content creator, you're in a panic, and fortunately, because of Gatsby Cloud's integration with the CMS, you can make the changes directly in your CMS without having to write code. So here I am in my Contentful page. I am now in the section where the content needs fixing. So I'm just going to pretend this is the new content. So I just quickly type it, remove my image, change it to the right image. Just check other things to make sure there's nothing else that needs to be changed. I can actually preview that content right in the tool of my choice, right in Contentful. So that way, mistakes like what we just saw doesn't happen again. So Gatsby Cloud is saying, okay, yeah, this is the old content. It's building a new preview now with the change I just made. And so once that's completed, what I can do is share the content. So it's been updated, like I see the new changes. Okay, I have the right content, I have the right image. So now I can share this link with my team, make sure, hey, is this good? They all say, yeah, looks great. So I just publish my changes. And then I'm done. As content creator, I didn't have to do anything from a code perspective. I didn't have to touch Gatsby Cloud. I worked in the comfort of my space. And let's take a look. Looks like the data was updated. Let's just check the site. And yeah, here we go. We have all the content, the new content. And because, again, Gatsby has incremental builds built in in the framework. I mean, Gatsby just had to build the one updated entry from Contentful, which makes our builds, very fast, 11 seconds. So that's pretty much the workflow from a developer and content creator. So Alan, back to you.
Thanks a bunch for walking through those two scenarios. I mean, I think that's, for me, I'm gonna put my slides back up here just so that everyone can see here. That's where Gatsby really brings value, I think, is helping people who are building different things work together without stepping on each other's toes and kind of in a way that helps support each other.
Right.
I think that's really valuable. So that is our webinar in a nutshell for today. We're going to stick around for any additional questions. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them into our Q&A panel. like I said, we'll stick around for a few more minutes here just to make sure everybody can have questions addressed. And as a reminder from the beginning of our webinar, this has been recorded, and everybody's going to be getting a link here in a few days once the recording has been processed and things like that.
Yeah, so I guess my call to action for people who view this webinar is just try out Gatsby Cloud. It's very quick to start, and you'll then enjoy and experience the benefits of Gatsby, the framework, and Gatsby Cloud.
Yep.
So,
all right. Looks like no questions have come in, so I guess that's it for today. Thank you all for joining us. And oh no, that was there's a question about shopping carts and Shopify integrations.
that's we doing. Oh yeah, there's a question here about using MDX for a personal blog site. Yeah, so the question is, does Gatsby do anything to resize images? So the answer is you don't have to do anything if you are using the Gatsby plugin image. So that plugin automatically gives your site various image sizes. So depending on what your viewport is if you're looking at the image in a mobile site, a mobile device, for example, Gatsby will serve the images for that device. So you do not need to resize your images, but you have to use Gatsby plugin image.
And
Hope that answers that.
I'll drop a link in our chat too. Oh,
Yeah.
Let's see here. Right. Well, it did not copy. I'll grab it real quick. All right. There we go. Back to our chat window.
See, yeah, it's plugin image. That's right. Yep.
Gatsby plugin image, and it does all sorts of cool processing on images too, from resizing. It'll put previews out there that you get to choose the way that the image shows up while it's loading. It's very cool.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, and Aaron shared a link here as well. This is our colleague Aaron. He shared a link to an entire webinar over how to use Gatsby plugin image.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Cool. So I think that is our webinar for today. Again, thank you all so much for showing up. And just as Generosa said earlier, yeah, try out Gatsby Cloud, right? Sign up for an account and just see how it works, how it fits into your workflow, how it can help you and your team build things faster together.
All right. Well, thank you, Alan. Thank you, Aaron. Have a good day.
Everybody have a good day. We'll see you.
All right.
Bye.